back to the European institutions again. As we said in the beginning, they of course will play an important role in holding the frame, leading the way for the Bonn process.
And we would like to welcome again Florencia van Houdt. She is head of the unit Youth Volunteer Solidarity and Traineeships in the European Commission.
And we hopefully have as well Matjaž Gruden, Director of Democratic Participation at the Council of Europe. And the first question actually goes to both of you. Whoever feels free to answer first, just go ahead. How can your institutions ensure an impactful Bonn process?
Flora, you want to go first?
Yes, if you give me the floor, then I'll happily take it. Hello, everyone, and you must be full of new ideas and inspiration, and perhaps a little bit exhausted after 4 long days of debates and exchanges. Even if we couldn't meet in person, I have been on the platform a few times, and I see it's extremely lively, and you've really done a great job in emulating a physical environment insofar you could make it possible. And I'm glad we're here at that phase when we have a declaration, we have an agenda where we can work on. And I hopefully can see, I cannot see you, but I hopefully there is a community of youth workers willing to commit together with us to make this agenda a reality. From the Commission side and the EU side, in more general sense, our EU strategy already pointed to the importance of youth work, and notably to keep investing in high quality youth work, in ensuring recognition for youth work, both for the youth workers and for the young people that benefit from it, and finally also to support and assist youth workers to cope with the changes and the need to innovate in a world that is changing rapidly. Today, we are all experiencing how to cope with new platforms, and this is no different. But of course, it's a different story to see how can we do meaningful youth work online. Now, when it comes to what we want to support, so the EU Youth Agenda is there, and we are fully on board. The EU Council of Ministers has already last month adopted a strong resolution to get a political intention to focus and support youth work in the future. And now we have your inputs to see how we can make this happen. When it comes to our role, first of all, I'm very happy that and hopefully, fingers crossed, this week we will have a new multi-annual financial framework, including a near doubling of the Erasmus Plus budget, which gives us really a big boost and an injection to also support the ideas that you have with the budget. So that is an important source of funding that can help you to keep investing in the tested actions that we already have, the youth work capacity building, also the tools for recognition and the competence frameworks, and to invest together with you on how to refine, improve, and multiply these tools and instruments. But then we are also happy to see this intense debate that you had over the last 4 days, and we can see how fruitful it is. And it is probably clear that only waiting to see you again after 5 years would be a big pity. So it will be something we're very interested to see how we can support a platform in which youth workers can stay in touch. We can uphold this dialogue that you had on the 4 days in a more permanent way. We can also, on that platform, ensure that all the material, expertise, access to information and peer support can be made easier accessible, because when I was participating in the debates in the last few days, that very often when people asked about good ideas, or we could do this, or we should invest more there, that some other participants came with solutions and said, we are doing this, and have you heard about this tool or that instrument? And we would really like also to put a lot of energy in ensuring that whatever is produced is easily accessible and available, so that you can all make good use of this. And last but not least, we are also happy to work together with the Council of Europe, because this allows us from the EU perspective to also invest in youth work capacity and cooperation with our neighbors in other European countries, which is also very important to us. So we look forward to working further with the Council of Europe with our partnership, to invest in the platform, and also to carefully study the declaration and all the findings from this event in order to start implementing this agenda. So thank you and good luck to all of us.
And now we move the same question over to Matjaž Gruden. Just go ahead. As soon as you start to speak, you will appear in the picture.
All right. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I'd like to say that today we are celebrating an International Human Rights Day. And I think what a better occasion for we cannot imagine a better occasion for the adoption of a declaration on youth work, which is one of the very important ways in which we are building a society that is based on the protection of human rights and human dignity. I don't have a background in youth work, and I must admit that when I took up my responsibility as the Director of Democratic Participation, my colleagues had to spend a lot of time and energy to explain to me all the complexities and richness of what the youth work is, what youth policy does, and what youth research seeks to discover. But I did really discover, understood, and was impressed by the transformative power of youth work, its creativity, innovation, and positive impact on society, as well as its contribution to participative democracy and the promotion of human rights, as I already said. And I'd like to congratulate Germany for putting the youth work so high on the agenda of its double chairmanship of both the European Union and the Council of Europe. I'd like to also express our satisfaction and congratulations for the European Union for putting the subject of youth and youth work so high on its agenda. The Council of Europe clearly intends to be a part of that team effort, and I think it's now also on the national and local authorities to become a strong member of that team effort. As it to the next steps, I mean, we'll take some time to go through the declaration, which is very, very dense and very rich and promising. I was right now already from the outset impressed by one of the early references, key sentences, which was from rhetoric to reality. And I think that's really a path we should follow. How are we going to do that in the Council of Europe? In two ways. First, with the European Union. Flor already mentioned the cooperation that we have through, in particular, through the Council of EU Youth Partnership, and we share the hope and the ambition to reinforce that partnership and hopefully make it a driving force behind that youth work agenda. On our side, we will, of course, also support the Bonn agenda through the training and networking of multipliers in several ways, both in our youth centers, European youth centers in Strasbourg and in Budapest, but also through the network of youth centers which have received the quality label of the Council of Europe. We will do so also through the European Youth Foundation and its grants, and finally also through a very important youth policy assistance to our member states. What is it that we as an organization can bring into that team effort of taking that process forward? We will certainly contribute to the Bonn process by sharing responsibility for decision-making between governments and young people. Co-management is something, it's our reality in this sector already for decades, and we're very proud of it. We will also become very faithful to the trialogue between youth work, youth policy, and youth research, which is also a modality on which our youth partnership with the European Union functions. And as you know, the Council may not be a very rich organization, but we are certainly committed to a collaborative and transparent process guaranteeing quality, continuity, and sustainability, which I think is a bureaucratic speak for we'll do well, we'll do strong, and we'll do long. And it's apparently also known as the sector's participatory build strategy. As the declaration is asking from us, we also want to offer a creative space to young people, a laboratory of ideas, and also a lighthouse for values for young people in Europe during a time when democracy and human rights are increasingly endangered by nationalist, racist, and backward-looking policies. You mentioned the bad witches, the evil witches, COVID-19, mental health problems, youth unemployment, discrimination, democratic backsliding, climate change, information disorder. And then we need to react. And I think that at this stage, I would also like to thank Germany for its expressing its readiness to support our ambition, our planned future youth campaign on revitalizing democracy, which is going to be hopefully addressing several of those bad witches. And we are still looking for a snappy title. My personal suggestion was make democracy great again, but that was not met with unanimous approval. Actually, many colleagues were laughing at me, which is okay, because trying to make people laugh at me is a part of my management style. But seriously, when you look at the reality of the world in which we live in, where we are confronted with all these threats, and when we see some drive towards a society where with a very transactional understanding of interhuman relations, where everybody on his or her own, where you can only win if somebody else loses, and where we are completely weakened and unable to confront these difficulties, you can start really to understand the importance of youth work and youth workers, of people who are addressing, reversing those trends, repairing that social fabric that is being torn apart by these events in so important areas, social, economic, cultural, civic education. I think that's real demonstration of the importance of this work in that critically important category of the population, which is young people. So thank you, Germany, also for that, in addition to everything else. Just before I conclude, I was also like the movie imagery that was used in the presentation of the declaration, but I actually think that the youth workers and young people don't really need a Wizard of Oz, because in the book, not in the movie, he gave the scarecrow, instead of brain, some pins and needles mixed with bran, which I think is an edible breakfast cereal. To the cowardly lion, he gave some magic potion. And to the Tin Woodman, sawdust, a heart full of sawdust. Now, I don't think we need that. I think we are dealing with young people, with youth workers, which have a real brain, which have real hearts and real courage. What they need, what you need is real opportunities and real support. And from our side, we'll do everything to provide that. As to the magical potion, in moderation, as always, but I think after so excellently organized convention, I think you can certainly pour yourself a drink and congratulate yourself. Cheers.
Really nice words. Thank you very much. We have another question for Mrs. van Houdt. How do you envision the cooperation with the Council of Europe in the next years? How can both European institutions provide more wind in the back for so many engaged people we have met this week?
Well, we have an excellent tool for this that already works for many, many years, which is the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership. So this is a mouthful, and this partnership has evolved over the years to something that is widely appreciated in the youth field and even beyond. First of all, it has the function of a think tank, because whilst maybe our competence and our area of work and our focus differ, the information, the evidence and the analysis that we need is of course the same. I mean, we very much appreciate having the same understanding of what the challenges are for the youth work sector, and there is absolutely no need to duplicate work. And we have an excellent team of researchers. They were here, very present also in the conference, who can help and who are serving us as a sort of a think tank. And we can only see that there's more and more good thinking coming out of this think tank that is useful for us. What I've also seen, and something which I think is very important for the years to come, is also the way in which this information is not only passed on to us, the policy makers, but also presented in a way that that is useful for practice. So we see there are efforts being made to translate more abstract research findings into what does it mean for organizations at grassroots level. There is also nice and short and easy to watch material for people who don't have the time to read big books of analysis and studies, and a lot of attractive, interesting and useful material is coming out, and I think there is still a potential to go further on this road. And then what is more, it is also, I see the Council of Europe partnership with us as a good tool to also uphold and invest in a more permanent dialogue with the youth work community of practice. Because in the end, the policies that both institutions are developing are meant to serve you. And before we heard already the buzzword co-creation. And this is, of course, something we can very much support. And the partnership can also help us be the bridge between the policymakers and the institution, and sorry, not the institutions, between the community of practice, and help us to uphold dialogue. Because we know from our experience with youth participation that this is not empty words. We need to invest in the structures and the mechanism to keep that dialogue going. And that is something we're, of course, very happy to invest in together with our partner.
Thank you. And we also have one more question for Mr. Gruden. How important are platforms like this convention, and what will be the next steps for the Council of Europe to ensure that the connections between the EU and the different actors in this convention and across whole Europe will continue in this vivid spirit?
Well, I think as to the EU, Flo has just replied. For the Council of Europe, I think it is evident that also from what I said in my first set of remarks, that youth work is clearly a priority. It is a part of the Council of Europe Youth Strategy 2030. We are building on, I think, our flagship achievement in this area on the 2017 recommendation to the Committee of Ministers. So we are really working in several directions. One of them, already mentioned, cooperation with the European Union, in particular in order to be able to support and invest and be a part of that European youth work agenda. But also, and I think that was mentioned during the presentation of the declaration, the work we are doing within the Council of Europe, because the ambition is not, of course, only for the cooperation, as it was said, between departments responsible for youth work to communicate and work with each other, but it's also how we are communicating, how we are working, how we are promoting and mainstreaming youth work and youth issues throughout the organization. And again, there, the work through the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership is very important, because it represents that source of knowledge, expertise. It's a research and development function that I think is extremely important in order to make sure that that the youth work can actually have that opportunities and do the role that is expected from it.
Thank you very much for your statements, and of course thank you for your commitment to an impactful Bonn process. This really sounds like a lot of backhold by the European level.